Dragons will now be way more impactful. Early game champions are seeing a nice boost, while Renata Glask is finally receiving a nerf. There are a ton of meta shifting changes to cover for 12.14, and we'll be breaking it all down thanks to the help of our challenger players and analyzing the most recent data. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Riot has a few more Star Guardian skins ready to drop in 12.14, with Akali, Morgana, Quinn, Rel, Syndra, and Taliyah each receiving their own. Syndra is the lucky one who has been given the Prestige skin. Jumping into the item changes, heal and shield power on Moonstone is being lowered from 25 to 20%. Staff of Flowing Water, Ardent, and Forbidden Idol will have their heal and shield power lowered from 10 to 8%. Redemption and Mikael's heal and shield power drops from 20 to 16%. Decent nerfs across the board to enchanters, but not to the extent where they'll completely fall out of meta. These changes will help open things up for certain melee supports like Amumu, Taric, and Pyke to jump up in priority. A nerf to Sunfire Aegis is headed to live with its base immolate damage lowered from 12 scaling to 30 plus 1% bonus health to 15 plus 1.5% bonus health. With the bonus health scaling being increased and base damage nerfed, this change is aimed at targeting the hybrid builds being abused right now. For example, Diana with Nashers and Sunfire. Tanks really shouldn't lose much power from this change. It's just champions who don't build multiple health items in combination with Sunfire who will be feeling it the most. Chempunk had become extremely cost efficient after its buffs from a few patches back, so Riot is looking to address that in 12.14. Total cost of the item is being increased from 2,600 to 2,800. As a result of this nerf, we should no longer see Chempunk being prioritized as an early game purchase, and it can go back to being a later game niche pickup. Players who enjoy a more skill-expressive early game are going to be loving these next set of changes, as Biscuit Delivery is being nerfed. Missing health and mana restore is going from 10 to 8%. Max mana increase drops from 50 to 40. Often taken in combination with Biscuits is Time Warp Tonic, and its power is dropping as well, with the movement speed lowered from 4 to 2%. It's not just Biscuits being hit with a sustained nerf, as normal health potion restoration drops from 150 to 120. Refillable and corrupting potions are hit as well, with their healing lowered from 125 to 100. So let's say you're playing a mage mid lane who starts Doran's with 2 health potions. You'll now have 60 less health available from normal potions and a little less healing from Biscuits too. Early game champions are going to be liking these nerfs, and you'll find some kill windows that wouldn't have been there before. Not only is Sustain being nerfed, but Scorch will have its damage increased from 15 scaling to 35 to 20 scaling to 40. 5 extra damage isn't anything massive on its own, but it's another change that when combined with the rest definitely adds up. Speaking of adding up, here's a buff to Sudden Impact with its lethality increased from 7 to 9 and Magic Pen going from 6 to 7. The window you'll have to punish Guardian users becomes much longer for 12.14, with Guardian's cooldown increased by 20 seconds in the early game. Majority of champions who run Guardian have an alternative keystone they can switch over to, but there will be a few supports who feel the nerf. Braum is one support who exclusively runs Guardian, so it's interesting he wasn't given a compensation buff considering he's not in a super strong state. Rakan is another support who doesn't have a keystone that performs nearly as well as Guardian, so he will be negatively impacted. Someone like Taric, though, can just swap over to Glacial and be completely fine for the most part. Bard players likely look into running Fleet more often now as a result of this change. On top of the Guardian nerfs, we have a cooldown nerf to Bone Plating as it's being increased from 45 to 55 seconds. Resolve Tree is being hit pretty hard across the board as Second Wind has its base heal lowered from 6 to 3. Unflinching will have its tenacity and slow resist lowered from 10 scaling to 30% to 5 scaling to 25%. And the final nerf to the Resolve Tree is to Conditioning, with its armor and magic resist gain lowered from 9 to 8, while the total armor and magic resist boost drops from 4 to 3%. A ton of rune and item changes to digest here, but the big takeaway is that scaling champions are negatively impacted, while strong early game champs receive an indirect bump. A few other miscellaneous changes include Exhaust having its damage reduction lowered from 40% at all levels to 30, scaling to 40% from levels 1 to 9. Durability update combined with ADCs running Exhaust have allowed them to be much safer, so this change is being issued to combat that. Skirmishing junglers will be hit the hardest by this next one, as the damage reduction on Challenging Smite drops from 20 to 10%. Actually a very significant nerf, and we will likely see a wide array of junglers swap over to running Chilling Smite in more situations. Dragons are becoming stronger across the board as every single Drake buff will have its power increased. This will put a much greater priority on securing dragons, which should indirectly lead to a shift in meta. Top lane champions who have global impact like Shen are going to be loving these buffs, along with any champions in general who teamfight well. Letting the enemy stack dragons and trying to scale for late is not going to be as optimal of a strat for 12.14, so scaling champs will be indirectly nerfed. Even though the power of each dragon buff is going up, it's now going to take much longer to kill them. Dragon health is being increased from 2,650 plus 240 per level to 3,450 plus 280 per level. Once the Summoner's Rift transformation kicks in, dragon health will be going up from 4,350 plus 240 per level to 6,950 plus 380 per level. To compensate for this health increase, each dragon will now be dealing less damage. With dragons becoming so much stronger, Riot doesn't want champs like Shyvana or Nunu to be able to solo them super easily, which is likely why the health and damage changes are being added. Elder Dragon will have its health increased and AD lowered as well. With dragons buffed, the reward for taking Rift Herald will be much greater. Instead of gaining 100 gold, you'll now receive 100 plus 200 local gold. The second Rift Herald will now have 75% more health. So, with all the system changes out of the way, let's have a look at the direct champion buffs and nerfs. Starting with top lane, Teemo is first on the buff list, with his mana regen per level going from 20 to 25. Our range is increased from 400 scaling to 900 to 600 scaling to 900. Our AP ratio is up from 50 to 55%. Our mana cost is lowered, going from 75 at all ranks to 75 scaling to 35. Teemo will be an interesting one to watch this patch due to the resolve tree and health potions nerfs. Everything is trending in Teemo's favor right now, and we can see him being a very fringe S tier pick, but we'll be leaving him in A for now. Gnar is going to become significantly more vulnerable this patch as his base health is lowered from 580 to 540 and health regen drops from 1.75 to 1.25. These nerfs combined with the potion and resolve tree nerfs are going to negatively impact Gnar, so he'll be moving from A into B tier. Riot has a few adjustments planned for Aatrox, with his health per level going from 104 to 114. E healing is down by 2% at max rank, while R healing is being lowered by 10% at max rank. These changes don't negatively impact Aatrox early on, but his late game will be taking a decent hit. Our analysts don't expect the changes to warrant any movement down the tier list, so Aatrox will remain in A. Gangplank is going to become much more exploitable in the laning phase as his base health is going from 640 to 600. Armor drops from 35 to 31, while health per level is going from 104 to 114. Passive damage will now scale with 250% crit. Q base damage drops by 10 at rank 1, but is increased by 10 at max rank. E slow drops from 40 scaling to 80% to 30 scaling to 60% plus 0.25 per 1% crit. E damage drops by 5 at rank 1, but is increased by 15 at max rank. E bonus damage on crit is going from 25 to 10%. What we expect from these changes is for GP to become weaker in high elo and pro play, but stronger for the majority of solo queue ranks. For Plat and below, where the early game is not as important, these scaling buffs are net positive. For Plat and above, though, where winning lane is significantly more important, we expect the changes to be net negative. As for Gangplank's tier list placement, it's definitely more difficult to judge until we see exactly how the changes feel on live, so we'll be leaving him in A tier for now. So for the pre-patch top lane tier list, the one major adjustment is Shen moving up and joining Darius in the OP tier. Shen has already been one of the best performing top laners in recent patches, and he's going to become way more valuable this patch due to the dragon buffs. A strong early game lane bully like Olaf is going to be a really great pickup for 12.14 as a result of the potion and resolve tree nerfs. With emphasis on team fighting around dragon, adding a tank like Sejuani tier champion pool is a great idea. Sedge's early game is surprisingly strong with Ignite. She can win lane, then teleport down to dragons and impact fights extremely well with her heavy CC. Best low elo top lane picks of the patch are Garen, Mord, and Yorick. High on our ban list are Shen, Darius, and Mordekaiser. Pantheon Jungle will be back in a viable spot for 12.14 as his Q damage to monsters is going from 70 to 105%. This buff combined with the priority on Dragons Rising is going to be really nice for Panth as he's an early game reliant jungler who needs to snowball a lead to be effective. We have had Panth down in the depths of C tier for a while now, but as a result of these changes, he'll be moving into B. One of the worst solo Q junglers from previous patches, being Jarvan, will receive a couple buffs. Q bonus AD ratio is increased from 120 to 140%. E cooldown drops from 12 at all ranks to 12 scaling to 10 seconds. Much like the Pantheon changes, these buffs are a step in the right direction but are nowhere near what Jarvan would need to become a meta pick, so we'll be moving him from C into B. Some Wukong adjustments are set to drop, with his base health regen increased from 2.5 to 3.5. To compensate, Wukong's passive health regen per stack is going from 0.5 to 0.35% max health. Sort of an odd change, as you'd think Riot would want to reward a more aggressive playstyle, but instead, they're nerfing it and buffing Wukong's base sustain. It definitely feels like this is another change targeted at hitting Wukong jungle while leaving top lane relatively unscathed. Changes will be net negative for Wukong jungle, but to what extent is the big question. We'll be leaving Wukong in the OP tier for now, but we'll keep a close eye on him throughout the patch and adjust accordingly for the mid-patch tier list if need be. Riot has 2 changes planned for Red Kayn, with his health per level going from 99 to 109 and passive health lowered from 25 scaling to 35% to 20 scaling to 30%. Our analysts expect these ones to be slightly net negative, but not enough to push Kayn down the tier list, so he will remain in our S tier. For the complete jungle tier list, we have Fiddle, Nunu, and Wukong locking down the OP tier slots. Fiddle was moved into OP tier in our 12.13 mid-patch update, as his buffs from last patch have been insanely impactful. Teamfight junglers like Fid are going to be great value for this patch, with fighting around Dragon being so key. Diana is being moved out of OP tier and into S as a result of the Sunfire Aegis changes. Shyvana and Nunu are 2 junglers to really watch in 12.14, as they're going to become stronger with the Dragon buffs. With how Nunu can snowball the early game combined with his top tier objective control, he's an OP jungle pick this patch. Top 3 low elo junglers are Amumu, Master Yi, and Shyvana. Nunu, Wukong, and Diana are all great ban options. LeBlanc mains can rejoice, as she will no longer be one of the worst mids for 12.14. Base mana is going from 334 to 400. Mana per level is up from 50 to 55. W damage is being increased from 75 scaling to 215 to 75 scaling to 235. It's not just these buffs that will help LeBlanc though, as the sudden impact and Scorch buffs are impactful, while Resolve Tree being nerfed are major wins for LeBlanc. Biscuits and Time Warp are nerfed, but that just means Sorcery Secondary becomes more optimal now. LeBlanc will be released from the prison of C tier and moved up into B for 12.14. With LeBlanc being the only direct champion change for mid lane, let's jump right into the tier list with Sylas, Victor, Swain, and Anivia as the OP picks. Seraphine mid will be dropped down due to her direct nerfs, which we will cover when going over bot lane. As a result of the Taliyah buffs last patch, she is shot up into a very powerful spot. Securing dragons will be of the utmost importance this patch, and with Taliyah's crazy strong zone control, her value is going to be super high. Kiana is another one we expect to get a ton of attention this patch, as her ability to thrive in choke points and around dragon is massive. If you like those sleeper OP mid lane picks, then Rumble is going to be pretty nuts for 12.14. Extremely strong lane bully who benefits from all the rune and potion changes, while also possessing a godlike team fight due to his ult. Optimal mid laners to climb low elo the fastest are Veigar, Malzahar, and Annie. Sylas, Victor, or Kassadin are a few of the best mid lane bans. The only ADC buff this patch will be Varus, with his base AD going from 59 to 62. Every single time Varus is buffed, we become optimistic his bottom dwelling days are over, but are disappointed every single time. We can't see it being any different this time, as 3 base AD will give him a minor boost, but won't be enough to overtake the top tier ADCs. With how strong of a state Sivir is in, we were expecting more significant nerfs, but that's not looking like the case. Q will receive a cast time bug fix. W minion damage is lowered from 80 to 65%, and W is now going to last hit minions that are left with less than 15 health. So it's really just the W minion damage change that will negatively impact Sivir, and considering she was far and beyond the most OP ADC in 12.13, the nerf won't be enough to change that statement heading into 12.14. Riot has a couple more nerfs lined up for Zeri, and these will likely be the nail in the coffin for her solo queue viability. Right click will no longer deal 60, scaling to 150 plus 18% AP to enemies below 35% health. Instead, right clicking now executes enemies below 60, scaling to 150 health. R on hit damage is being lowered from 10 scaling to 20 to 5 scaling to 15. Zeri had a good run on top of the meta for a while, but as a result of these nerfs, we'll be forced to drop her from A into B tier for 12.14. The Seraphine nerfs are aimed at reducing her power level in the bot lane carry role, as her AP ratios are being targeted. Of course, these changes negatively impact Seraphine support as well, but not to the same extent. W shield AP ratio is lowered from 35 to 25%. W heal AP ratio drops from 0.6 to 0.4% missing health per 100 AP. By no means will these changes kill Seraphine's viability in the bot lane role, but players will likely stop picking her as much because she's not as blatantly broken. From OP into S tier is how we'll be shifting Seraphine on the tier list. So for the ADC tier list, it's Sivir as the lone OP pick of the patch. Draven is going to be moving up into S tier as he's been on the edge in previous patches and all the rune adjustments are extremely positive for him. Riot ended up going a little too aggressive with the Neela hotfix nerfs, so she's not in the greatest spot for solo queue in 12.14. Maybe that's not a bad thing though, as every other recent champion release has been left extremely broken for multiple patches. Veigar, Misfortune, and Seraphine are our top 3 bot lane recommendations for low elo. Seraphine, Sivir, or Draven are a few of the higher value bot lane bans. Alistar has been rotting in a terrible state for a while now, so he's finally getting buffed in 12.14. Q mana cost is going from 65 scaling to 85 to 55 scaling to 75. Q cooldown is buffed as well, lowered from 15 scaling to 11 seconds to 14 scaling to 10 seconds. Nothing too crazy by any means, but enough of a buff to push Alistar out of B tier and into A for 12.14. A very minor Yuumi nerf is being issued with her E-AP ratio going from 35 to 30%. You'll barely feel this nerf when playing Yuumi, especially throughout the early to mid game. Supports don't have the kind of gold income as other roles, so ratio nerfs to their abilities don't hurt nearly as much. It's the item nerfs in combination with this change that will significantly affect Yuumi though, and we'll be moving her from S into A as a result. We've been waiting for this one for multiple patches now, but a Renata Glask nerf is finally here. Base health is going from 595 to 545, while base AD drops from 51 to 49. Renata is also being negatively affected by the Enchanter item nerfs, so factoring those in, we will be moving Renata from OP into S. Janna is being flat out nerfed pre-level 6 with her E bonus heal and shield power dropping from 20 to 15% and E base shield lowered by 10 at all ranks. It's at level 6 when things even out a little as Janna R heal is increased from 90 scaling to 200 to 100 scaling to 200. Our AP ratio is up as well from 45 to 50%. For most situations, these changes are going to be nerfs. It's only in big team fights where the ult buff will outweigh the E nerf. Janna will be losing a bit of power, but not enough to push her down the tier list as she will continue to be placed in S. We have a few major adjustments to the support tier list in 12.14. With Renata Glask along with many other enchanters being indirectly nerfed, Taric and Amumu will be taking over the OP tier. Taric is such an amazing support for the current meta and only becomes stronger in 12.14 with teamfighting being more important. Amumu has been in a great spot ever since his buffs and slides into OP tier due to enchanters losing power and his excellent teamfight potential around Dragon. Prioritizing supports who can thrive in 5v5 situations is going to be key this patch, so picks like Zyra and Zillion will be amazing as well. The best low elo supports of the patch are Seraphine, Brand, and Zyra. Renata Glask, Yuumi, and Pyke are a few of the best support bans. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. What a massive patch we have ahead of us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you in the next one.